And we are rolling. So, welcome back. Camp report day 2 for all of us. We are back together. If you didn't catch yesterday's, it's on the YouTube channel on RGR Football, and you can hear as we try to resuscitate Seth what our thoughts were on the Locked On. So, another day, much hotter. A lot of players ended practice. They're running into the tent, and when you need it, you need it. Hydration is probably an issue, but first takeaway for you on the day?
I thought that, it was a little bit more lively today. Full pads, you saw hitting, and the thing that I told you during camp that impressed me was you saw defensive players getting after offensive players and offensive players not really going after them for it. The team seems to be have good chemistry, and they know, they're just doing their job, and that's a good sign. I don't really like seeing teammates fight. I get that it happens because this is a violent sport, but I saw none of that out there today.
Yeah, well, and it's hot. I mean,
absolutely.
On a day, like, if there was going to be a training camp skirmish, this would have been it. Like, I almost got into, 4 fights.
That's just with the media.
Well, no, it was all children.
Oh, well, that helps.
Seth Keysor, the fighting pastor.
Move the collar down to the waist.
I feel like there's a brand to be had there, but I mean, it wasn't really that testy a practice for as hard as they were getting after it, which is a good thing.
No, a couple of good thuds. Nobody went to the ground, obviously, unless they didn't mean to. Sorensen, I'm looking at you. They need Kelsey. My point is, a little bit of contact. This is one of those days where they're trying to power through the end of camp. It's within sight. You can feel it. The countdown is on. The second preseason game is going to wrap up, and they're going to be able to take a breath of fresh air. But right now, we saw, 10 guys on the jugs machine after practice. They're trying to power through the dog days right now. On defense, a couple of takeaways. A lot of work going on with Daly. Hopefully we'll have some shots of that later. Tano Passanio getting a lot of attention and a lot of work. First takeaway on him from last week, or what you've seen the last 2 days?
He did a really nice job in the 9-on-7s against a couple of runs to his side. He said that he's put on about 15 pounds of good weight. He looks a little bit bigger. Those are the types of things you can learn on theathletic.com.
I should check that out. I hadn't known the number. Thank you.
Yeah, and so he looks as athletic as ever. He's still not really a bendy guy or anything like that, but he's strong, and it seems like he's got a little more sand in the pants to back up that upper body strength that he's got. He looks good out there. He's getting plenty of run with the ones.
Well, and then there was pass pro drill, which I really enjoyed watching because you sit there and you watch the tight ends and the running backs take on the linebackers and some of the safeties, and Deion Yelder got bulldozed, and I didn't see who ran him over, but that was one of the plays I saw. Carlos Hyde whiffed on 2 separate blocks and then got an earful from Eric Bieniemy afterwards. But what impressed me the most, and there were several good reps from a lot of different players, Traymon Smith stepping in and doing a good job. And I tweeted about it. I can't remember off the top of my head who he was going against, but he stepped in and did a better job than I expected him to do for a guy that hasn't been playing the position very long.
Yeah, and I saw a couple of combinations where you saw him and Sherman in at the same time. A lot of Sherman split out, a lot of off the end of line of scrimmage, H-back type spots, unique stuff. On the other side of the ball, some zone blitz work today. A lot of guys getting into drops. This is something that Alex Okafor is going to be particularly important about. Wasn't out here today, but saw some of the other players taking some drops. Still continuing to look for combinations of the linebackers, particularly in the nickel. Just keep rotating through those. Anybody stand out along the front that we haven't covered yet?
No, I did think it was interesting that you saw Passanio and Speaks were basically your starters with ones today. Frank Clark was out ill. Okafor was out here, but was not practicing in team. He did the individual drills in the early part, but didn't do any of the team stuff. So you'd expect that maybe he's going to be back the next couple of days, maybe his first game action on Saturday.
They're really easing him back. I think you can see with how things have gone down, I think they value Okafor. Yeah. I think you don't, if he was a guy that was fighting for a spot, I mean they flat out said, if this were during the season, he'd be practicing and playing.
Right.
And to me, if he were a guy fighting for that starting spot or for snaps, he would be out there. Whereas I think they've got plans for him. I think they like him and they want him out there, so there's no need to do anything but ease him back in. which I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see some of him because he's been one of my guys, but it's a good thing to see that there seems to be a plan in place there.
Yep.
And Breeland and Speaks and Passing, they look better than they did last year.
I was going to say they look better today than they did yesterday.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
noticeable.
I'm liking that progression. Also, a lot of play from Herb Miller today, and there with twos quite a bit.
Came in with ones at one point.
Yeah.
Rotated in with Breeland on one point. And we've talked about this on Twitter a little bit, is that they'll rotate in different guys with the first string unit just so they have that feel of the rotation and they can see other players in there. So it's not that Breeland's losing his spot. It's just that's how they rotate players in. So
right. Breeland, I thought Breeland played well again today.
I did
got
too.
another pick.
Yep.
In one-on-ones down there. I didn't see who it was on, but got a pick. Another couple guys had injuries. Yelder left very gingerly at the very end of practice. Breeland actually walked off practice for 30 minutes today. I don't know where he went and what he was doing, but he came back in practice later, so
right.
Obviously he was all right.
Well, and I mean, on a day like today, it might be people left to get an IV real
That
quick or
could be.
something.
Yeah, right.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, it was brutal. It was technically, I think, cooler today than yesterday, but with the sun out it was cloudy most of practice yesterday.
Well,
but with the sun out, it was brutal.
Yeah, and then you have a guy like Lovett who was actually in a sling today that wasn't yesterday, so
Right.
that was
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little disappointed in that. I thought when initially he wasn't in the sling, that was a positive sign, mild separation. But as things go on, those injuries have a tendency to kind of act up on you. We'll see where he is, but that's definitely more of a sign that IR could be his future. But
Right.
At the safety position, a little bit of a switch again. Dan Sorensen got some run with the ones as well. Still trying to figure that out. A lot of hands work for Juan Thornhill after practice. I thought that was interesting, and a lot of work with Sam Madison from both Breeland, Ward, and Mo Claiborne, who did get some reps with the twos,
threes.
right?
I thought it was all threes, but he might have been in there for twos for a little bit.
Now they've said they're going to go really slow with him and kind of ease him into it. And I think that makes sense for a guy who hasn't been on the field all off season.
Mm-hmm.
But from what you guys have seen from the guys right beyond him, Wade, Miller, etc., how fast do they got to get him up to speed?
Well, with Wade out, Wade didn't practice today, second day in a row.
Right.
So that's why Miller got first string snaps and not Wade, because Wade wasn't practicing. So, it's going to be very key to see what happens in Game 2 and Game 3 in the preseason, because you're going to be watching that corner position. Is Demontre Wade even going to play? If he doesn't, Herb Miller moves into his position, and then you're sitting there going, okay, well, who's after Miller? You have to figure out who your fifth corner is going to be. I think it's Demontre Wade, but if he continues to be injured, that might not be the case.
Yeah, and it puts him on the spot. I didn't watch as much offense as you guys did. Standout of the day?
Travis Kelce, in a stunning turn of events. Hey, Matt Derrick's calling you.
He is. Welcome, Matt. And folks, if you don't follow Matt, check him out on Twitter, because I'm not going to answer him right now.
No.
We're just going to keep
That's
going as
rude.
long as the recording doesn't cut off. But
Sure. And so here, I'll text him.
Text him back.
This is great radio stuff. Watch what I can do. I can multitask. So I mean, Travis Kelce, I'm being a little funny there, saying that Kelce was a standout, but he was. I mean, he looks good. Hill once again looks really good. That entire first team offense looks really good. I noticed Hardman getting rotated in quite a bit with the ones, and then I also noticed Darwin Thompson. My guy, I've decided to claim him as my guy at this point. He was getting rotated with the ones in the red zone work as well, which is very different, because earlier in 11 on 11s, he was like the fourth running back in.
Yep.
And so it's interesting. I'm curious what they're going to do with him.
And what I also found interesting, when you get down in the red zone, they actually did put Kemp in, and he hasn't been running a lot with the ones, but he played 3 or 4 snaps in a row with the ones in that red zone work. That tells me that they're going to try to make. I think he's got probably the 5th spot at wide receiver right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And I'll say another thing about the red zone. He worked in well there. Davis worked in well there. And the defense as a whole did a pretty good job of making Mahomes take the check down.
Yep.
A lot of plays, he had to go through quite a progression. So I think overall it was a good day of practice all the way around. We're going to be back with you tomorrow. We'll have the pod for you later. These guys are both on AES on 8:10, and we'll try to talk to Josh later too. Sean's here though, so we should get Sean in here.
Yes,
if you guys
and
haven't
there's
followed him,
Big
the Big
Chief
Chief Sean on YouTube, you got to do that. What's up, Sean?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Sean.
What stood out to you today? Who's your player of the day?
Oh, my player of the day, it would I would have to agree with him and say Kelsey. I mean, he did some fantastic catches, man.
And if you want more video of practice, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. The Locked On Chiefs account had a whole bunch of the 7-on-7 type stuff on video, so go check that out.
Will do. And since Matt called, we're going to get back to him. Hopefully we'll have some with him for you too. Thanks for today. We'll check you out tomorrow. I think at least 2 of these guys will be practicing. I don't know if I will be.
I will be gone. I'm heading back to the Great White North.
Oh.
Yeah.
Say hi to
I will be
I
here.
have to cool down. I need to get somewhere where it's below 80 degrees, guys. Oh.
And that's it for us today. You guys have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Peace.